Shannon Wheeler of the Nez Perce Tribe Executive Committee. Mr. Wheeler was first elected to NEPDIC, the governing body of the Nez Perce Tribe, in May of 2016. In May of 2022, he was elected to his third three-year term. On behalf of the Nez Perce Tribe, Mr. Wheeler has served on the affiliated tribes of the Northwest Indian Economic Development Committee as board member for American Rivers and a variety of tribal boards and commissions. Thank you both for being here today.
Great to be here. Good to see you again.
And so I think we are ready to go ahead and move along into our questions and answer session. Unless you would like to have a word too, Kayeloni?
Thanks, Angela. I'm just honored to be here, and it's been a while since Chairman and I have shared this space together, so it's nice to have the partners in crime at the table. But just thank you for creating this opportunity in such a timely manner.
Thank you both. And so as we look to the future here in 2025, I think everybody is just wondering about what we're going to do next. And so I think we wanted to take this time to go ahead and share what our visions are and our passions so that we can get everybody fired up. And so, Kayeloni, what are the top priorities for the Columbia Snake River campaign moving forward? And how can individuals and communities contribute to these efforts?
Thank you. You know, I think now more than ever, it's time to roll up our sleeves and lace up our boots. We got a lot of work to do. You know, we had an idea of the two different directions we were going to go depending on the administration that was elected. And now we know which administration we're going to be working with, and we have a trajectory in mind, and we are going to have to hit the ground running. When the election results came in a couple of weeks ago, honestly, my first thought was the timeline of the salmon has not changed, and therefore we cannot slow down or change our trajectory to ensure that we don't lose this critical species. So for the campaign, while we continue to evaluate what the needs are and what the next steps are, there are a few priorities that we do see and know will be critical moving forward. One of those includes relationships. It is vital that we continue to build our relationships, not only in the Northwest, but beyond. We need to have a strong pulse of what is going on in Washington, D.C. with this new administration. And we also need to make sure that our leadership in the Northwest is very well aware of the issues and is continuing to advocate for the salmon and orca throughout their tenure in their positions. These relationships don't include just one party. It includes working across the aisle, working with all of the partners. We all have an impact, and we all live in this place we call home. And so it's important that those opportunities to build relationships and to nurture those relationships continue. Outside of that, it's also important to think about your neighbors. You know, again, thinking about us being from, I pointed this out last week. We often don't think of ourselves as part of this ecosystem, but that's not true. We are part of this ecosystem, and we are a critical partner in that. And so when we talk about these places, protecting and restoring these places, we can't separate ourselves from that. And so when you think about building these relationships with your neighbors, whether that's the fishermen on your street or the farmers across the way, it's important that you build those relationships and understand that we all are here working toward building a stronger, more resilient region, and better understanding each of our interests and reasons for being in this place and why we love this place continues to build on those relationships and connect and find resolve and work towards solutions in areas that consider every aspect of our ecosystems that are critical. It's also important that we are providing education so that folks understand what's at risk here, understand what's possible and the opportunities that can come with service replacement and dam breaching and salmon restoration. When we talk about salmon being a keystone species, that means that there are severe impacts to the entire ecosystem if we lose them. So what does that mean for each of us? And the last item, we are going to need to be strong partners within our states. Going forward, we have a lot to learn about where this administration, presidential administration, is going to play a role and how they're going to be a partner. What we know is guaranteed is that our state partners, through at least right now, Washington and Oregon, need to remain strong. So we need to show our support for the studies to continue to ensure the funding is available to see those studies through, and continuing to have those conversations about advocating for, what we care about and what needs to be a priority. So those are a few pieces that I think we can all continue to move forward on, and amplify as we are, navigating these next steps.
Thank you so much for that response, Kayeloni. So collaboration is exactly what I'm hearing there. And collaboration across communities, I think that we would like to hear about what opportunities exist for greater collaboration between tribal nations, environmental groups, and local communities in advocating for the restoration of the Columbia Snake River Basin. Chairman Wheeler, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, I'd like to touch on that as much as I possibly can. Of course, some of the things that were mentioned by Kayeloni, of course, are spot on. And I think the collaboration, from tribal nations need to continue to engage on all fronts, and whether it's legislatively with the Northwest delegation or the legislators of Washington, Idaho, Oregon. I think those are all places that we still need to continue to engage. And I think, we as partners, as with under the six sovereigns, I think, that isn't going away. That's only growing stronger. And I think our relationships with environmental groups, if they want to be called, I think we're voices for the land. And I think that, we're an alliance there. And I think that's really something that is truly important, is that we understand these things, that collectively together we are much stronger, moving things that are in a positive direction for for those foundations that need to be built for the future. And fundamentally, I think when we think about that, we need to engage with the younger generation. They need to be aware of the things that are happening. And I think there's been a lot of that has happened up to this point, but more can happen. We need to engage more into the schools. We need to engage with the youth groups. And I think, because it is their future, it is their place. Like we always say, we're only borrowing this space at this time. And as we continue to think about our efforts that have been to this point and where we're currently at, whether there's an administration change or not an administration change, our obligations don't change. Our obligations remain the same. We speak with different people. They may not see the same way that we see things, but there has to be an understanding that there is still a relationship, not only to the land, but with one another, and we as people and humanity come together and work together. And we'll continue to advocate for that. We'll continue to reach out to Chamber of Commerce's, Rotary clubs, and county commissioners. We'll continue to all those efforts. Those are all grassroots efforts where we're working hard to, keep this messaging going, that what we're truly fighting for is a better place, a place that, I notice your background and my background are places that we've been, places that we've walked, and places that, you find solitude a lot of times, and you get to engage with the land. And and a lot of times that's healing. And I think we as people, worldwide, need to be able to heal. And I think this is a good place to do it.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Wheeler. Innovative solutions. What are some innovative and emerging approaches to addressing the challenges facing the Columbia Snake River Basin that inspire hope for the future? Ms. Scott.
I've been extremely impressed and just give a lot of gratitude to the six sovereigns for working in unity on finding solutions that work toward making our whole region, our entire region whole. It's a big feat to undertake, and really looking at what the future holds and the opportunities that have come up in recent years. There's a lot to be said about that. And when we talk about building a stronger, more resilient Northwest, there's real truth to that issue, and looking at how we can build a more diversified portfolio on our energy grid, and how we can rethink the way that we're transporting goods, how we can still support our farmers and irrigators to continue providing food for our country and beyond. And there's real solutions. And I believe the six sovereigns have done an excellent job of working with state and federal partners to get these studies moving forward and having conversations, and genuine conversations that are not always easy to really focus on what's possible. And while we're looking at these opportunities, still understanding that, for a long time, the salmon and orca have not been prioritized. And we finally have a group of people that are not just considering the needs of us humans, but these species that are just as important to our ecosystem. So I think there's a lot coming forward, and a lot that we can consider that will be positive solutions to fixing what's been broken. And that's the reality. We're working with a broken system right now, because it is not providing for fish. It is not providing for the orca. What we've been focused on, and what we've continued to amplify from the six sovereigns, is that it's time to look at those solutions and opportunities that we can bring to the table. And while change is hard, and many of us don't really care for it, it's time to change, and we know we can do it. And if we do it together, we're going to be stronger for it. So I think that looking at innovation, it is a time to get creative and really think about what is possible. And that requires having everybody at the table and understanding one another. We've talked really heavily about building these relationships, and part of that is understanding one another. I've learned so much from talking to farmers and irrigators and folks in transportation. And it broadens my perspective on what the need is. And the more we can do that and understand where we're coming from, the better off we're going to be in finding those solutions that will work for all of us.
Solutions that help us understand our neighbors. For a call to action, for those of us feeling discouraged after the election season, what immediate actions can we take to reinvigorate our advocacy and build momentum, that heartfelt momentum that we need in this realm? Chairman Wheeler.
Well, for one, don't feel discouraged. Let that go. Release that negativity that you may be feeling, because just like the trail behind you, you can leave that backpack on that trail. You don't have to pack the lead around, let a backpack around. You can put it down there, it's there, and you can continue to march on. And you don't have to carry that weight with you. And if that weight is discouragement, well, leave it there. And we know that there's still work ahead of us, and there's still work there's difficult work. It always has been difficult. It isn't going to change. The elephant is still in the room. And so we know what that is. We know who that is. We know where that is. And so we'll continue to work and advocate for the changes that need to happen here in the Pacific Northwest. And by doing that, I mean, we're not giving up. I don't feel discouraged. I just know that these things, we know that what we work with. I know what I work with. I know the passion that I have, and I have love in my heart. And I know with love in my heart, I can go forward without fear. And so I don't fear the future. I don't fear what we're up against, because I know what I'm fighting for is true and correct. And I love that. I love that, Salmon has made themselves available to us. And so I know that what I'm fighting for is the right thing. I know the corrections to the Pacific Northwest Columbia River system of operations needs to change. I know those things. And I know that emerging technologies are going to help us get there. And I know those people are just waiting in the wings. Those conversations are going to happen with those people that can do these things when they're allowed to. And that's what we need to do. We need to clear the path for them to allow them to come in and make the changes that need to happen for all of us. And, for the Pacific Northwest, for the energy in 2018, BPA was in dire straits. They were looking at something very, their finances they weren't good. Congressman Simpson was trying to solve for them. And he knew that in those efforts, he had to solve for many other things too. And so that framework hasn't changed. The administration may have changed, but the administration still has the issues of surrounding BPA. They still have, the transition that needs to happen here in the Pacific Northwest. They have emerging technologies that are waiting to go somewhere, waiting to be deployed. So there's a lot of things out there that I think that are really positive. So I can leave those negative things that are in my backpack on that trail, and we can march forward lighter, swifter, faster. And so, I think that's enough for us to continue the momentum, because there's a lot of people that are waiting in the wings to help, and they just haven't come forward yet. And there are a lot of people that aren't in the know yet, like the youth that's out there. They need to be in the know. We need to let them know what's going on and what their future holds and how we're trying to help. And so we have a lot of friends, we have a lot of advocates, we have a lot of people that will eventually come forward to help us get to the solution that we're looking for.
Thank you so much for that heartfelt response. I definitely think that a trip to the mountains is a really good answer for that. Cultural and ecological significance. Chairman Wheeler, can you share your perspective on cultural and ecological importance of restoring salmon and orca populations for the Nez Perce tribe?
Well, it's always been part of who we are in our existence, and the Columbia Basin tribes and the Pacific Northwest tribes, Alaskan tribes. These species have played key roles in who we are, in understanding our own way forward, and understanding how we live with the land and what's in the land itself, and what provides for the land. And so culturally, that is with us, and it'll continue to remain with us. Understanding that the other things that go along with culture, our physical well-being and our spiritual well-being, all of those different things that are tied to the survival of a species and in our fight. It helps define who we are. And I think, that is the thousands of years we've lived with these species is only defining us even more, that what we're fighting for and where we're going to get, we're utilizing that strength too. We're utilizing the strength of the orca, we're utilizing the strength of the salmon to help us fight for them. And we're all interconnected, and that's what I'm trying to say, is that we're interconnected. And so if you're fighting us, you're fighting the salmon, you're fighting the orca too. You're fighting the environment, you're fighting the trees and all that exists out here. That's what you're up against. And so it's easier to work with us and find the solutions for us. And if that helps us culturally, spiritually, our physical well-being as a tribal nation, then that's really what we're carrying with us, and that strength that we're carrying with us. It's an inner strength that has come from years and years and generations to generation that is it's very hard to describe. It's an emotional feeling that I'm talking about, and you have to be able to feel that. And I think many people can feel that. And, like I've said before, I can, tell you about the things that have happened in the past, but, sharing that emotion with you is something that is, I think, stronger, and you're able to feel what we're feeling. And I think when people do that, when people understand that, they understand that this is culture, this is spirit, this is well-being, and we're going to continue to fight for that beautiful feeling that we have inside when we know we're interacting with the land in the correct way.
Yeah. Overcoming barriers. What are the biggest challenges facing restoration efforts today, and how can we work together to overcome these barriers? Ms. Scott?
I was the day after the election, I was trying to process and work through my thoughts. And one of the things I did, I almost immediately, Chairman Wheeler, put down my backpack. But I will say I've revisited it and checked on it a few times since then. But one of the things I did was I actually went back and I rewatched the women's panel from Run 2023. And I just needed something. I needed some words of encouragement to, just keep moving forward. And like, I felt like I had this flame ignited in me where I wasn't, I couldn't understand my emotions. But in going back and watching that, Alyssa Macy had made the comment that we cannot expend too much of our emotional energy on things out of our control. And that clicked for me. And I thought, you know what? That's absolutely true. There's so many pieces. And when we talk about barriers, there's so many barriers that we don't have a lot of control over. And what we really do have control over is ourselves, what we stand for, what we fight for. And these are the reasons that we've continued to stay in this work, as challenging as it is. We've had people within the tribe, within the NGOs that have been doing this work for decades. And they've gone forward and taken steps back, and they've had to overcome obstacles, and we're still here. And I think back even further to my relatives, my ancestors, we've endured and we're still here. And I was brought up in a home where if you tripped and fell, they said, get up, you're all right. And so I felt like I tripped and I fell, and maybe I skinned my knee, but I had to get back up. We got to keep going. So when we look at barriers, I think it's important to see that there is a barrier, but there's also an opportunity to find solution. And that's what we need to focus on. And if we can do that, we're going to be better off. Like Chairman Wheeler said, we're on the right side of history. We are standing up for things that truly matter, that are truly going to have an impact, not only on us, but our future generations. If we don't have healthy waters and healthy land and healthy wildlife, what do we have left? We have an injured planet that we can no longer live in partnership with. And where does that leave us? So looking at the bigger picture and the broader lens really gives us that opportunity to not see these barriers as simply obstacles we can't overcome, but opportunities to find solutions to do better and to do right for our future generations, so that we can ensure these essential life sources like salmon and orca can continue to provide, not just for us, but for their ecosystems, the other plants and wildlife and that depend on them, and for our future generations to continue to have that connection. And that's what's important. So while we will continue to see barriers, if we come together as a community and we lean into our community, we will be able to overcome those, find the solutions necessary. And I will add to Chairman Wheeler's comments earlier about, how do we move forward? How do we get through this? And I've talked to so many people. I was really touched by how many people reached out to me, checking in. How are you feeling? What does this mean? And it just shows how much people care and realize, the impacts that we all have in moving forward on these issues. But I also recognize how important that community is to keep moving forward, because you are justified in your feelings, you are justified in your fears and concerns. And the more you can lean into this community, and when I say community, I mean us. We're salmon people. Somebody made a comment that I don't think was actually friendly, but they referred to us as salmon kissers, and I'll take it because why not? But lean into that community that understands why you feel the way you do and why you stand up for the things you stand up for. It's not going to happen overnight. Some people might be able to put their backpack down sooner than you, and that's okay. But at some point, you got to get up. We're warriors, and warriors keep moving forward. They might take time to cry, they might take time to grieve, but they're going to get back up, and they're going to keep fighting because they have to.
Always something important to elicit the emotions. Very, very good words, because I definitely can feel that. As with just about every show, I get a little bit emotional every time, because being able to stand up again and brush off your knees. I definitely can. I definitely feel that in my soul, just to sit down, take a moment on the trail, grab your backpack, get up, and keep going. Thank you for those words and the picture that you're painting here today. And so with that, our long-term goals. What does success look like for the Columbia Snake River campaign in the next 5 to 10 years? And how can we ensure progress remains sustainable and inclusive? And can we start with you, Chairman Wheeler?
Sure. I think, as we look at the success, we've had plenty of successes from 1990s to 2000s to the 2010s into the 2020s, and knowing that there's been flawed EISs that have been put out and have been challenged, and I know the attention that Congressman Simpson had brought forward to the issue of salmon recovery and breaching of the 4 lower Snake River dams as the alternative to success of recovery of ESA listed species in these high mountain waters is success there. And and before I go to the next portion of what I want to say, I just want to, and I've done this before, I've quoted the late great John Wooden, coach of UCLA basketball. His success is the self-satisfaction of knowing I've done my best to become the best that I'm capable of becoming. And and he also said, I come to the table. When we come to the table, we may disagree, but let's not be disagreeable. And so, coming from John Wooden, who I admired and still admire my whole life in the pyramid of success, I think about that portion of Congressman Simpson coming forward with his proposal and framework to save BPA, but also to save the salmon at the same time. And when he did that, that alone was success for us. When Linda Mapes did the story in the Seattle Times covering the issues around the lower Snake River dams and the ESA listed species, the Nez Perce tribe, and the connection to the land, changing the narrative of the story to not only dams versus salmon, but the whole environmental story that went with that. she understood that it was deeper than just a salmon in a dam, that there was real human impacts to life, to land, and those things. And so that's another success that helped change the narrative and the discussion here, along with Congressman Simpson. And then Governor Inslee's work and Senator Murray getting Jim Cramer to do a study and a report on what needs to be done in order to have a successful salmon recovery, and identifying these services that would need to be replaced in order to breach the 4 lower Snake River dams was another charge, another success for getting closer to breaching the 4 lower Snake River dams. And then the 6 sovereigns coming together with the National Wildlife Federation and all of the environmental groups that have, been a big portion of this gathering of people, a larger group of people that are in alliance to see recovery of salmon species. And then the USG commitments, the Columbia Basin Restoration Initiative that was sent to the administration, and the actions that we're taking under the United States government's commitments to the 6 sovereigns was another success. The NOAA rebuilding report, the tribal circumstances analysis that speak to the impacts to tribal nations that were left out of the environmental impact statement, record of decision, and the biological opinion of 2020 and previous EISs. So these are all successes now that have gone to the next level and has moved us closer to the goal of breaching the 4 lower Snake River dams, which is a necessary action to recover these species. But beyond that, the actions around energy, the actions around transportation, there's the state of Washington now from the USG commitments and from the Cramer report doing these analysis, the legislators from the state of Washington taking those actions to look at transportation, irrigation, and energy. What does that replacement look like? What's the cost associated to that? I mean, these are all successes. And as we continue to watch those, monitor those, to take part in those, and to be a part of the solution, and I think we continue to do that. We all continue to do that. We all continue to engage where necessary, when and where necessary. We have to be there. We have to be there. And by showing up and being there, that's a success in itself, that we're ensuring that this thing is moving. Sometimes it may seem like it slows, but even if it moves an inch, that's enough. Sometimes that's enough for many things to happen in a good way. And so we can never let up on this with as much progress that has been made over the last 6 years through this process. And so over the next 5 to 10 years, let's ensure that these studies that are being done in Washington are completed, and our voices are being heard through that process. And so that ensures that the progress will remain there. And if people want to vote again in the midterms in a couple of years, then I'll make sure you vote in a couple of years. Continue to let your voice be heard there. Continue to engage with those people that you may disagree with, but we're not disagreeable. Because we all want change. We all want things to be better. And to speak to those people that are on the cutting edge of technology, that are on, the verge of transforming this world into a better place, and to take in the environment into consideration with those advancements that they're moving forward. And so I can see this happening still, I can still see the end, the goal line here. And it gets tough in the red zone. I'm sorry, I'm going to use a football term, but it gets tough in the red zone. You know, people toughen up, you know, interests toughen up. And that's okay because we're toughening up too. But, you know, it's at the end of the game, you would hope that you're friends. You'd hope that, you know, nobody's hurt at the end of this and that everyone's okay. Just that's what we hope for. That's what we want. That's what we want to ensure that the salmon are okay when we're finished and ready to breach the 4 lower Snake River dams. We want to make sure the people in the Pacific Northwest have affordable energy, reliable energy. We want to make sure that agriculture communities have their water, have their transportation. We want to make sure that these recreational areas and new recreational areas are top notch, that we all can enjoy. We want to make sure that we can walk on the trails and look at the beautiful streams and be a part of the land and take that in if that's what we choose. And I think those are the things that I feel are a part of the success in this campaign, that we can see what that picture looks like now. Before we couldn't see it. Now we can see what that overall picture looks like, and it's a good picture. And restoring salmon, restoring orca only makes that picture more beautiful and more bright and more vivid and more lively. You know, if you're a connoisseur of art, you can respect those things that are just sometimes the smallest details, or sometimes the portion of a painting that you didn't notice, but now you're saying, and you can see that tail of the of the salmon, or you can see the fin of the orca more clearly and more vividly now than you ever could. And that's what this group of people and coming together to amplify this message means, is that portion of the painting is now more vivid and has been captured, and we all can see it.
Grazie, Chairman. Kayeloni, can you give us your perception of what success looks like and how we can ensure progress remains sustainable and inclusive?
I think Chairman answered that really well. And I honestly don't know if there's much to add. And, you know, just a couple things that I'll say, just because our trajectory might be shifting a little bit, doesn't mean the timeline of the salmon has changed. We're still looking at 2 life cycles before we're in serious trouble, which means 8 to 10 years. So getting back to the question about how do we overcome these barriers, this is still the reality that we're up against. So while folks are working through this next step and what we can plan and prepare for the best we're capable of with a new administration, just remember that your efforts are more important now than ever, because that timeline hasn't changed. And we have so much to accomplish within that window to ensure that these life sources remain for all of us into perpetuity. So we got to stick together. We've got to keep moving. And I continue to be so inspired by the folks that worked on Elwha, the folks that worked on Klamath, the folks that worked in, you know, on Penobscot. Those were huge challenges to see those journeys come to a head, but they got there. They dealt with barriers. They dealt with obstacles. They dealt with opposition. They found success. And now those rivers are healing. We can get there. It's not going to be easy. It's never been easy. I think for folks, especially non-tribal folks, look at your tribal partners. Look how much they've endured over the last centuries. And they're still here standing, fighting for these things that they're so deeply connected to. They're still standing. And we need to support them. We need to support each other, because it's going to take all of us. But we know it's possible. And one thing I truly admire about Chairman Wheeler is he's a visionary and he's an optimist. And man, sometimes I need that inspiration from him. And I'm hoping that you're receiving that today, because I think we've all needed to have that big picture put in our faces again, because it's there and some of us see it. And we just need to keep working towards it, even if it's one puzzle piece at a time.
Thank you so much for those heartfelt words. I just want to take a moment at this time to, that wraps up the question portion of our interview. And so I just wanted to take a moment to give you both an opportunity to have closing remarks. And so I think I will pass it right back over to you, Ms. Scott, and then we'll have closing remarks from Chairman Wheeler.
Oh, thank you, Angela. And again, thank you for creating this space to kind of come together again today. I know it's been a tough couple weeks, and I know that there's probably a lot of questions that folks have that we just can't answer at this time. I completely understand that there are some unknowns, and we are going to continue pressing and be optimistic about the opportunities ahead. But you know, when we don't have all the answers, there are fears that lie within that. But trust that we are going to continue moving forward, and we're going to continue leaning on you to support us in these issues, because they are important. And we're not done. We're not giving up. We see a path, and we're going to work on that path. And when the time comes, I hope that you all are ready to join us on that path. I do want to note that now is the time to again lean into your community, and that wow, this is one opportunity to do that. I think another great opportunity will be Run 2024. If you participated last year, it was the first annual event held in Tulalip. This year we are holding it in Kennewick, Washington, and it'll be another opportunity to bring this community together and continue talking about next steps and where we're headed, and what's at stake. So December 16th through the 18th in Kennewick, Washington, we hope you'll join us for a 2-day event full of education and community building. Angela linked the registration in the chat there, and I hope to see you there. I think it'll be another opportunity for us to gather in person and continue on this path. And, you know, we're stronger in numbers, so I hope that you can be there. And again, just thank you for this time.
Thank you so much. Just in case you can't see that, it is www.salmonorca.project.com/run-convening. And that's the symbol dash. Thank you so much, Ms. Scott. Chairman Wheeler, I'd like to open up the floor for closing remarks from you.
Yes, thank you. And I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today, and, you know, being a part of this conversation and understanding where we currently stand. You know, we're looking at, you know, analyzing what's happening next with the incoming administration. We're also looking at, you know, some of the final closeout things that we can do with under the Biden-Harris administration between now and January 20th. And also, you know, we continue to meet with the 6 sovereigns on a daily basis. You know, those conversations are happening on a daily basis, and we continue to do outreach, understanding that, you know, our federal partners, whether they're Army Corps of Engineers, Bureau of Reclamation, NOAA, BPA, whoever it is, you know, we're looking to continue these conversations and to, you know, see as many as these commitments, you know, where we're at on the commitments by the United States in salmon recovery. And, you know, we look to the next administration to see what they want to do, you know, see if they want to build a stronger Pacific Northwest and a more resilient Northwest. And I think, you know, we're always thinking that our position as a tribal sovereign nation, that, you know, we have these opportunities to speak at the highest levels in the United States government, to have these conversations in order to express, the things that we feel are necessary to express to them in our commitments, not only to the land, but to the people of the region and the people of our communities and our tribal communities, that this is something that is of high importance to us. Now, whether we get the attention of the administration or not, I know regionally with the regional administrations, whether they're Region 10 EPA or the Region Portland Division of the Army Corps of Engineers, we're still engaging there. There's still an obligation under the treaties and the Constitution to have these conversations. There's still obligations to the rule of law under Article 6, Clause 2. So we continue all these efforts in those areas, and like I mentioned before, we'll still continue to do outreach to the local communities and to our neighbors, because we're all in this together in one way or the other. And I think I just come off of a podcast right before this one, and it was a young fellow by the name of Parker Romero that has his podcast. He's 19 years old, and he wanted to know more about, hey, what are you guys doing under Project 5311, and how is that going, and what does the future look like, and what can I do, and what can young people do? And so that leads me to believe that, people are seeing and understanding or wanting, they're, I guess, wanting to know more, and they're, a lot of young people are inquisitive and want to do things and want to be a part of things. And I think, that's, has opened up, something, with me even more. I have to mention this about um, some girls that I take care of. For over a year now, I've been doing foster care for a 1-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 6-year-old girl, and it's been amazing. And they're my relatives, they're my grandnieces, and it's really had an impact on my life, and really knowing the things that are truly important, and it just re-energizes me. It re-energizes every day. Every day I'm re-energized, and well, sometimes forcibly because they're waking me up, but and it's like, it's Saturday, we don't have to get up early, but no, they still wake you up anyway. And it's a wonderful feeling. It's a wonderful feeling that such young, energetic people are here, and their fate depends on the work that we do. And so the work that I do is calculated, the work that I do is meaningful and heartfelt, and the work that I do is for the future generations and for them. And for our relatives, that they need to know. They need to know Salmon. They need to know Orca. And so when we think about the work that we do, all of us, each and every one of us, by coming together like this, sometimes you just have to look at the young ones, look at the children, and it'll ring a bell in your mind somewhere, and memory will come up, and it'll help you. And so everywhere we go, we're the fight continues, the progress continues. And even if sometimes the progress seems like it's a holding pattern, there's still a lot of things happening, and a lot of things, there's a reason why it's a holding pattern. If we weren't in doing our efforts, it may be reversing back to something else and going backwards. And that's not good in this situation. So if a holding pattern is a pattern that at least we're holding our ground and not going back, then I think that's truly the position that where we're at today. We're close to the finish line, and we'll continue to push, and we'll continue to hold our position until we see this through. And it's for those future generations, and those efforts aren't for naught.
Thank you. Again, I would like to thank both of you for coming and being here with me today and sharing this space, and making me laugh and making me cry today. It is always such a wonderful treat to listen to both of you talk about what we're all so passionate about, and thinking about the future generations of our children and what it's going to mean for them, as we continue our efforts and move forward. Um, and I would like to invite our guests to follow us on the Salmon Orca Project website at www.salmonorcaproject.com. Follow us on YouTube and on Facebook. And you can view our past speaker series recordings there on YouTube. And then upcoming in December, keep your eye out. We are doing a 2024 year review. And so keep your eye out for that video clip coming out. And then we look forward to seeing you again in 2025. So we won't have a live show speaker series webinar in December, but we will see you again in January. Imakis Katsuyaya, Yokalo.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.